You're listening to Filmmakers Drinking Bourbon. Hey, what's up, World Wide Web? How are you doing? This is Brandon.
And this is Lisa.
And we're filmmakers. And we're drinking bourbon. Cheers. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. It's a beautiful afternoon.
It is. I'm gonna get a good sip here. I'm gonna take this in. And we got a Bullet Frontier whiskey. I've been off the sauce for a little bit.
I had read that, so I'm very pleased to see that you're drinking with me. Because
I'm back.
I'd hate to be drinking alone.
I know. I'm back on the side. So funny story. I'm gonna jump right into it.
Okay.
The listeners, and I got to catch them up. So I was in New York a couple weeks ago, and one of our listeners shows up to a meetup we had. And I think his handle on Slack is Ward. I'll look it up. But anyway, he shows up, and I was there with Joe Ville, Angus Oborn, their wives. We're hanging out at the Wayland. We're drinking. We're talking film, and it was funny. We go there. He showed up for to hang out and meet up, and we're standing there talking. And he starts asking me about my liver, which was kind of funny. And then Angus leans over and he's like, you share your personal health on the podcast? And I was like, yeah, like, what, am I not supposed to do that,
You had to explain why you weren't drinking.
So what do you think? Do you think should I share my personal
Absolutely.
Wellness on a podcast? What are your thoughts?
I think we want to know.
I think
we want
so.
to know more about you. It
Yeah.
makes you more real. We get it that,
All right, cool.
everyone has challenges.
Yeah. So Ward came out. Shout out to Ward Cinema. Is his Slack name. I think he's Ward Cinema on Twitter as well. But it was fun, and I think that's what's really cool about this podcast is that we're creating a community and a place where I could be in New York, or other listeners could be somewhere, and if you say FDB meetup, there's a chance a handful of people come out, and we had a cool meetup in LA, and it was a lot of fun. And so anyway, it was cool. But back to the story, my liver enzymes were high. This was a thing I shared on air, so now you're in on the conversation.
I had heard
Lisa.
it, yes.
So,
I heard that one.
We're going to get to you, but right now it's about me. All right, let's be honest.
I'm good with that. I'm okay with that. I'm really used to being behind the scenes and making it about you.
I'm just kidding.
And we're all good.
There's people that might be concerned for me, so I'm trying to get them up to date. So the
blood pressure's okay?
The liver enzymes were up.
Right.
And they said, stop the Lipitor, stop the bourbon. I said, okay. So 2 weeks, I get the blood drawn again. This is right before I'm going to New York, because I'm thinking, I need to get the approval to drink again.
Sure.
This has to happen. So clean bill of health. You're good to go. Schedule a meeting. We'll talk about next steps. So I still have high cholesterol, but who knows?
Okay,
everybody has something.
It's all going to be something. But if you're drinking bourbon, it doesn't really matter.
Exactly.
All that much.
So anyway,
it's the answer to everything. It is for medicinal purposes.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the update, folks. I am back. I'm feeling good. Alex is out. He just wrapped on a film with Emilio Estevez in Cincinnati. I think called The Library. I just saw the guys out there. They were loading up the trucks. Today was the final day.
Nice.
So you are from Cincinnati, kind of.
Dayton.
There's this other city.
We're a suburb, if you will.
Yes. So Dayton is about an hour.
40 minutes up the road.
40 minutes away. 40 minutes away from Cincinnati. But it's a city.
Absolutely.
It has a college. There's buildings. There's a downtown. It's this little pocket. And one of the cool things about it is it has its own film commission.
We do.
And it's basically you, right?
You're right, it is.
So tell the listeners, who are you? What do you do? All that jazz.
Sure. Lisa Grigsby, and I am actually the film commissioner for Dayton. Film Dayton was actually started about 9 years ago. And we were started based on the concept of we had so many filmmakers and so many creatives in Dayton. And our original concept was if we could get the engineers from Wright Pat Air Force Base who retire early and start second careers, mix them with the filmmakers, could we become the special effects capital? Because we knew all the Air Force Base guys were doing virtual reality and all kinds of things.
Yeah.
So that was our original concept, a bunch of people that knew nothing about film that thought this would be great.
Sure.
As we went down the road, we found out there were even more filmmakers than we knew about. We've got the Wright State Film School, which is now the Tom Hanks Motion Picture Center. Which is a huge deal. And so we started working on it. Then one of the very first things that we were instrumental in is joining with Cincinnati and Columbus Columbus and Cleveland to get this film tax incentives passed. So that was like our first thing. We're like, okay, to get film here, we need film tax incentives.
Right.
So we were very lucky. We had a board member, Carrie O'Reilly, who's a line producer who probably lots of people know who she is, was really helpful in helping us put that together. So we did that and we watched and we saw films coming to Cincinnati. We saw films coming to Cleveland, but not Dayton. So we really kind of investigated and said, you know what, we need to become a film commission.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to tell you the truth. I actually had to take classes and learn how to become a film commissioner.
So how does one do that? Is there like is there a course for that?
There's an International Film Commission Association, and you actually register and you take classes and you learn. And some of it's learning the lingo, some of it's learning how to sell it, what makes how do you rate the impact, the economic impact of the film in your area? How do you make connections? What's your purview versus what's the producer's, director's? Not to cross that line. Because the film commission is really here to be helpful for folks to get films made.
We don't make sell them. The town. Sell what you got to offer.
We want to get people here. We want to help them. We want to make sure that they get any of the appropriate permits that they might need or make the connections or find the locations. But we're not making film.
Gotcha.
And that's the thing. I think a lot of people, I get weird calls all the time. They're like, oh, hey, can you help us make this film? I can't, but I can connect you with people that can. Really, what I tell people, my job is really as a concierge.
Yeah.
That's what I really do is I'm
like
trying to hook that up.
I kind of want to be a concierge.
That
sounds nice.
I mean, that's what I do. I hook up people.
So let me ask you this. How did you get in the game? I mean, do you have a film background? Are you an actor? What do you do?
Okay, don't laugh. I owned comedy clubs.
Okay.
I toured the country, opening comedy clubs all over the country.
So what? This is crazy. This just went in a whole new direction. Wait, you own comedy clubs?
I did.
And you what?
Okay, I started out in Chicago working in a comedy club called the Funny Bone.
Which you're right.
So, and this was in the 80s.
Okay.
I'm dating myself here, folks. Do the math. And that was really when the comedy boom was.
Okay.
And
now, the Funny Bone's like a franchise,
it's
right?
It's a chain. And at that time, there were two owners, one in Cleveland and one in St. Louis.
Okay.
One was a radio guy, one was an accounting guy. And they decided that they wanted to open up a bunch of comedy clubs. So all of a sudden, as I was in Chicago and our club was doing really well and starting to do different things, and they're like, the owners flew in and they're like, what's going on? Well, the club had been run by a stand-up comic.
Yep.
I came in and my background was managing restaurants and business. And so we started just putting a little business to the comedy because there really are two different brains. There's the artistic creatives and there's the people that see business. So I became that business person. I went around and I opened 26 comedy clubs across the country.
Wow.
They'd look at me and go, we want to have a club in Atlanta. Go. And I'd go meet a real estate agent, figure out how to put a club together.
This is amazing.
And so that was my background. So.
Frank, why didn't you tell me this? This is awesome. Frank's in the booth. He's the one who connected the dots here to get her on the show.
Absolutely.
So, all right. So
comedy. Matter of fact, I lived in the Holiday Inn in Covington when we sold a franchise of the Funny Bone to that Holiday Inn in 1990.
Wow.
So
okay,
that'll tell you that. So working in a comedy club. So. And because so many comics went on to either be movie writers or to be in TV or film, I naturally became a fan. And, all of a sudden, as I started to know people and started to watch the credits, because they meant something to me now, as I knew these people, got interested. So when we did this Film Dayton thing, it was really started in Dayton. They had brought in a sociologist and his team to help look at all the assets in Dayton and figure out how to connect them. They recruited 40 catalysts to agree to a one-year project based on that information. And that's where we found out how many filmmakers and how many engineers we had. So that was kind of how I got pulled into the comedy thing. And while I don't know a ton about making movies, what I found is I really understood the artist from all those years in comedy. And
so you probably met like famous comedians, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And you're like, hey, what's up?
Yeah,
wow.
I met, absolutely.
What a strange world.
It is a real. it's a very strange world. Some of those comics went on. Like two comics that I knew way back in Chicago in the '80s were the first ones that I kind of knew went into film. Leo Benvenuti and Steve. God, I can't think of his name, but they wrote The Santa Claus. They were the very first filmmakers from comics that I knew, and they went on to do lots of good things. And then John Rigi was another Chicago comic who's written a ton of stuff and produces stuff. So the world's kind of interlapped.
Wow.
And so
that's how you got in.
So I got in, and it just kind of became one of those, like I said, I understood the artistic need. And that's something I'm not sure a lot of people understand. Film people are different. They just are. It's not a 9-to-5 world for them. You know, they don't work at 9 o'clock and stop at 5 o'clock. It's not Monday through Friday.
We're a broken species.
Well, it's they're intense. When they're on, and they work hard and they do it and they just buckle through for 30 days, 45 days, and then they take a month or two off to reclaim their lives.
Yep.
And I got that.
Yeah.
Because that's what comedy was too. You know, you don't have a normal lifestyle.
Yeah.
And so that made it very easy to understand. And, understanding having many bosses too. You know, in the comedy world, it's like, okay, I was dealing with the talent who had one set of needs, then the manager, then the agent, then the publicist. Sure. And it's the same thing in the film world. You know, you've got the talent, then you got the producers, then you got the directors, and the vision may be different, but the money doesn't match the vision. Right. So how do you cheat that? And how do you figure that out? So I think that's what prepared me.
Cool. So I just want to hit a little bit more on the getting into it, because my guess is there might be some listeners who, like yourselves, they listen to the podcast because they're into film, they watch films, they love film. Maybe they're in a small city or a town, but maybe it has great offerings. Maybe it's really cool. It has some great scenery and some great attributes, and they're thinking right now, man, I would love to start a film commission and try to get films to come to my city. So you take this course
online, AFCI, and it's like they have a little university, and there's probably 25 courses. You have to take 5 to become a certified film commissioner. So, the basics.
Gotcha. So you take the basics, you coordinate with your people, you find out who are the filmmakers, what are the places in our city that are unique that people would want to film at. Now, do you guys have a website? How do you promote it to the world?
FilmDayton.com, very simple. And on that, we have a couple things that are important for anyone to know. We have a location database. So those cool locations, and it's not just a matter of going and finding a Google picture and sticking it up. It's finding out who owns it. So if somebody wanted to film there, who would they talk to?
Yeah.
How would they find out? Some pictures from various places to know what kind of roads and what kind of parking. The one thing that I had to learn about was, okay, it's great. I've got this wonderful place, but where are you gonna set up everything? Where are you gonna feed the cast? Where are you going to put up?
Where are you going to go to the bathroom?
All these porta potties. Where are you going to park them all? So it's thinking beyond just cool. We got a barn that would be great.
Yeah.
It's knowing what else you can do. So the location database becomes very important in that, and having those contacts. Because the other thing I've learned about film is they don't always call you 6 months in advance and go, "Hey, we're going to need a church." They call you the night before and they go, "Hey, we got a location fell through. Where can you get me a church that I can film tomorrow?"
Yeah.
And if that happens, you've got to know who to call to get the permission, or the permits, or figure out all those extra pieces.
It sounds to me like you're a politician. Is that a far jump, or am I close?
There could be moments of that, certainly, and it helps to be well connected in your community. And that was another thing that I think I had a decent background from, having done so many things, and also from living so many places when I was touring with the comedy clubs and stuff. You quickly figure out how to get connected and who those people are.
I am just fascinated by this comedy thing.
It was a great 25 years of my life. I got stories that are.
I need some of these
bourbon.
stories. I need some of these stories. Is there an anecdote? Give me an anecdote. Give me something of like the early years traveling.
Okay,
Give me a story.
In 1989, I got a phone call from an agent. And he says, "You need to book this guy. He's the next Eddie Murphy. Book this guy." I'd never heard of him. Comedy was pretty much an all-white kind of community thing. And so I booked this guy.
What town are we in?
We're in Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay.
So I booked this guy, and it's Chris Rock.
Okay.
Nobody had heard of Chris Rock yet.
Sure. Was this before Saturday Night Live?
Yeah, it was. He had just done the movie "I'm Gonna Get You, Sucker," and he had a line, "And how much for one rib?" He was that guy, and that was the only pretty much line he had. But they said to me, book this guy, get him on the urban radio station, and we did, and we filled the house. And I'm going to say this in a way that hopefully people will understand. I'm not being racist of any kind, but comedy had really been pretty much a white suburban kind of entertainment thing. So now all of a sudden you filled a club with 450 black people who've never been there. Well, you have to teach people how to get it in a comedy club. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to get waited on. The comics are going to go up. There's going to be 3. There's going to be a last call. You pay your check, and then you leave.
Look, I know what you're talking about because I had never been to a comedy club, and it's stressful. I went recently. Well, it's been a couple months, and I didn't know what to do.
Yeah,
and it was
it's a procedure.
What am I doing? And I sat down, and then somebody was like, and then I was going to move to another place, and they were like, "Oh, well, you can't move because, we marked the seats, and now your drink's coming. It was this crazy thing.
Yeah.
It was different than a restaurant.
Yeah, you have to train the audience what to expect and what to know
Sure.
to make it all flow and work well. And the other reason you have to do that is because the lights go down and it's all in the dark.
Yeah.
So if you get up and move, your waitress has no idea where your drink is
Sure.
going or where to drop your check. And
Sure.
so it was a stressful week because of that. So we've got a whole new audience of people that haven't been
Right.
there. I have my phone reservation girls that are taking reservations, and we have a board up that has bio information
Sure.
for comics.
But Chris Rock's coming.
So Chris Rock's coming, who nobody knows who Chris Rock
Sure.
is.
He's not even Chris Rock at this
No,
point.
I mean, he's just
Chris.
some guy. So on this board, we had bio. So I had Chris's bio. We walk him into the club, and he sees the board, and on it says, Eddie Murphy's protege. Eddie Murphy says he's the next big star. Eddie Murphy, Eddie Murphy. Well, Chris, who at that time was 23, 24, kind of a young punk, rips the piece of paper down off the wall, throws it on the floor. I ain't Eddie Murphy's protege. That's not me. And I looked at him and I said, well, that came from your agent, and this is how he's selling you, and that's how you got the booking, because I don't know who you are or what you do. So you're here because of Eddie Murphy, and I don't appreciate you ripping stuff off my walls. So that was our first little interaction. Pretty, huh? Yay! So he goes up, he does the show, and I'm going to be honest with you, and he would say the same. He wasn't that funny yet.
Right.
He just wasn't. And so we got through it, and that was it, and we moved on. Fast forward now, 1993. I'm in Dayton, Ohio,
Okay.
running a club there, and I booked Chris. And at this point, he has
Yeah.
been on a couple things. I think he's just started Saturday Night Live, so he's starting to get a little
And
recognition.
I just want to pause the story here for a second. Is this world small enough where people just kind of know each other? They're kind of like, oh, yeah, you
Well, let
booked
me-
me for the other thing.
Let me connect
Okay.
the dots here. So I go pick him up at the airport because he's not big enough yet to have a limo. It's just regular.
Yeah.
I pick him up. He's sitting in my passenger seat, has a hat on, and keeps looking at the side of the brim, looking at me while I'm driving. Have we met before? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, where? I'm like, Atlanta. He's like, oh, shit. He's like, I owe you an apology. He's like, I was dumb. I was young. I was green. I can't believe you actually booked me again. So, having traveled around, I was
Yeah.
like, all right. And by that time, he had gotten funny.
Yeah.
He just got the publicity a little bit too soon.
Sure.
He should have still been like an MC or a feature that first or second
Yeah.
act. But because of the movie, all of a sudden he was a draw. And with Eddie Murphy's blessing,
Sure.
he did it. So fast forward a few more years, I've now got another club in Dayton. And he calls me up and he says, hey, I'm getting ready to film an HBO special next week. I'm not ready. Can you throw together a Monday, Tuesday show for me?
Oh, like a warm-up.
Yeah, and so which we happily did. And then the very next week, he filmed a special. So, I mean, it's been very interesting to see how all that stuff works. So,
That's
there's a fun little story about
That's
something,
awesome. Now, I remember now the show I went to was with Michael Holder. You know Michael?
I don't know.
He's always at the Funny Bone here in Cincinnati.
Okay.
He's been on this show a couple times. He's a filmmaker as well. Funny guy. Funny. He's got a sick mind, but
a lot of them do.
them
Well, I mean, 25 years in the business. What makes me laugh is either sick or demented.
yeah.
I mean, it just happens.
So okay, well that's really cool, man. That's an interesting point of view. So how has comedy or your experience with that, has it influenced your the way you see things with the film commission? Are you courting comedies? Like, could Dayton be the place for comedies?
It could be, I guess. We actually just had one film this past fall, a small independent film that was done that actually features some stand-up comics. And matter of fact, I was talking to the director this morning. We're trying to figure out that maybe we debut this movie at the Montreal Comedy Festival. So because the comics already have a draw. So yeah, they certainly could work hand in hand.
Well, it makes sense.
There's no doubt about it.
I think anything that for things sometimes to get noticed, they have to be, niched, right?
Absolutely.
So sometimes, you have film festivals that are just horror. Sometimes they're just documentary.
Right.
Maybe there's a space, and maybe Dayton's a comedy space.
Maybe there is something there. I mean, Dayton does have the very first comedy club in Ohio that's still actually operating. Wiley's down there. I mean, so there is something about it. And there's also something about the genre of comedy and film that it takes the right. It's hard to make funny.
Yeah.
In a film, especially. I mean, it's hard to be funny in the first
comedy's-
place. But
comedy's
comedy's very
tough.
touchy. I mean, it's
tough.
You can't be too cornball.
Right.
So to find somebody that does that well, and there are some. I mean, let's go into the Adam Sandler movies, whether you love him or not love him. He's got a niche, and you know what to expect when you see that.
Exactly. I'm a big fan of. I think I like more of a dry comedy.
Okay.
So I like.
The sarcastic wit.
There was a show on HBO called Togetherness. Did you ever see that?
I didn't.
Jason,
No, I don't know.
the Duplass, Mark and Jason Duplass. They did a film called Hump Day. They're the guys who do the fantasy football show on FX.
Yep. No, exactly. Okay. You're talking football. Now you get me.
What's that called? The League.
Yes.
Yeah, they do The League. They write that. But anyway, it's like a kind of a dry humor. And there's a guy. I don't have a big knowledge of comedy, but there's one guy who I think is really funny. But his comedy is like long, really long punchlines. He's got like he's kind of bald on top, long hair.
Stephen Wright.
And he talks like this.
Stephen Wright.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant because he's so smart and so intelligent with his humor, and he tells these really long stories, and he drops, something early on, and then he pays the punchline's like 30 minutes later. And I feel like there's something in that's so rewarding that it's just like awesome.
And it's an art.
Yeah, to whereas some of the other stuff, the penis jokes and the sex jokes and the cursing and all that sort of stuff, like it's almost so easy. Sometimes I feel like I'm not being given credit as a human being. Like, you know what I mean? It's almost, and I feel that way about films. A lot of comedy films, like people go crazy for, what's his name? Judd Apatow. I just don't get his films. I think they're horrible. It's just like, it's almost like, do you really think I'm this dumb? You know what I mean?
Well,
what are your thoughts? What do you
think? And it came from comedy and it goes into movies. It's the lowest common denominator. It's easy to get a laugh on that kind of stuff, whether it's a laugh because I'm uncomfortable,
sure.
When you're doing body function humor or any of that
Right.
kind of stuff. I mean, everyone will laugh at a fart joke. They
Sure.
just will, uncomfortable or not, but nobody thinks it's clever.
Right.
So it's easy. And that's the same thing with those kind of
it
films.
is
It's
easy.
easy.
Yeah.
And that's where I say to make a good comedy film, it really is hard.
Yeah.
Because to write something that's evergreen, like if you're a musician and people start to know the lyrics to your song and sing along with you, that's great. That's success.
Mm-hmm.
When that happens in comedy and they can say your punchlines with you, it's not very entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
So to be able to write something that's funny takes a lot.
Yeah.
And for it to live up over time. Like I recently saw Animal House again.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, it's not as funny as I thought it was
Sure.
now.
Right.
I mean, granted, I've grown up some, and,
Right.
and some of that stuff is really dated, but it's true. It's hard to write that stuff that lasts forever.
How do you feel about Seinfeld?
Interesting. They just
And, like,
announced he's coming back to town.
But going back and watching the episodes,
Seinfeld would not make it in the comedy clubs today
really?
because what his material is, it's you go back to that attention
Yeah.
span. It's long setup, little punch.
Yeah.
I think he was genius in his day.
Yeah.
I think he's milking it now, and they
Yeah.
just announced today that he's coming up to a show in May 12th up in Dayton.
It's kind of like the Garth Brooks of comedy, right? Like Garth Brooks, like he had his big hits and whatnot, and then it's like he's still selling out arenas doing "I Got Friends,"
Yeah.
and it's like, come on, Garth.
At least Seinfeld, I will say, he retired his first set of material.
By the way, officially, internet world, I don't like Garth Brooks. Garth Brooks, if you're listening, I don't like you. You know what I mean? You're probably a nice guy. You had a weird phase with this Chris somebody trying to do pop music. Just go away. That was horrible, wasn't it? That was awful. I might get hate mail for that. Or not.
Well,
I feel like all filmmakers agree with me on this.
Well, I don't know whether they'll agree with you or not, but I think that I respect the fact that you have a strong opinion and you're willing to say it.
Yeah,
no
I'm
pussyfooting about it. You're just like, no, this isn't my guy.
Speaking of which, you set me up for our heated debate here.
All right.
You got to weigh in, and there's no pussyfooting. It's a yes or a no. You in or an out. Superhero movies. Are you in or are you out? There's two camps. Camp Brandon says, worst thing ever created. Marvel should shut down. It would be a better planet if they did. Alex, on the other hand, who we miss Alex, he's not here today. Alex loves it. He thinks it's great. He wants to go escape into the world where a guy puts on his Iron Man suit and there's a Spider-Man and whatever.
Alex wouldn't be a fan of mine.
Where are you at?
I am not into the whole.
Yes!
It's not my thing. It's
Man, that's so good.
I mean, I'm all for escapism with the movies. I love that part of it. But I can't go that far, and to see the money that is being spent, and the I look at that and go, God, you could do so much else with that.
You could create whole new worlds.
I mean, you could do stuff that's new.
Yeah.
The way I look at it is they're making a lot of money off of little boys' fantasies.
I agree.
And I'm
Well, and let's be honest about Alex. And I think, Adam would agree in the booth with this is, Alex is a little boy. He's a little boy who's trying to fulfill his fantasies. I love you, Alex. I miss you.
yeah.
I miss you. I miss you, buddy. So let's.
But I also think in some ways the studios are kind of genius. Not because of the movies, but because of all the merchandising opportunities that come with it.
Oh, it's unbelievably
so it's a
genius.
cash cow.
Yeah,
so
it's
it depends on
yes.
what. If I'm sitting in the accounting office,
Yes.
go, because I'm
Right.
counting the dollars
Right.
come in. If I'm sitting in the movie theater seat, not a
It's
fan.
it's gross, is what it is.
It's just not. It's yeah.
All right. So that brings us to what are you watching? That's one of our. We got 3 questions. That's the first one. What are you watching?
Okay, you're gonna laugh. I've just started watching The Wire.
Oh, okay, nice.
I heard people talking about it
Yeah,
forever,
yeah,
and
yeah.
then Sunday I wasn't feeling good, so I thought, well, what can I start streaming and watching? So
Yeah. No, that's great.
Sunday night I started. Now I'm into. Last night I finished season 2, episode 12.
Well, it's good. It's good that you waited because they remastered it, so it's now 16:9. It's
There you go.
HD. Before you had to watch it like 4:3.
Well, there you go. So it's a good thing. But I'm watching it, and I think it's a really good time that I'm watching it because I'm also watching what's happening out in the world right now with
Yeah.
all the the heroin, the opiates, and all
Yeah.
that stuff. And it's just I don't know that if I had seen it a couple of years ago, it would have been as relevant to me.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I think that's what's great about where we're at is that old shows are new shows are old shows, right?
Sure.
Like new,
There's always something.
And the reason a show comes out, they drop all the episodes, and you watch them.
I watch them
in
all
a
at
week,
once.
and now
Boom.
it's an old show, right? It's even though it just came out. So, all right, what else you watching?
Trying to catch up on all the Oscar stuff before the Oscars right now.
So don't depress me already.
Uh-oh.
I can't.
You haven't kept up?
No, I don't even know that I've seen one. I am like, no, I did see. I saw American Honey.
Okay.
Great film. Great film. Shia LaBeouf, one of my faves. He just and the girl who was in that was kind of an unknown, but she stole the screen. It was a great film.
I just saw Moonlight this past
Oh,
Sunday.
I've heard good things about that.
Amazing, and then had a neat opportunity. The set designer for it, Hannah Beekler, is a Dayton girl.
Nice.
Graduated from Wright State, and she had just the Saturday before just won this an award for Beyonce's Lemonade for doing the set design on that. So she was there and kind of did a nice talk back. And the interesting thing, and I didn't know much about the movie, but it was a remake of a book.
Yeah.
It was done for $1.5 million.
Yeah, it was low budget.
Very low budget.
Wasn't one of the guys from House of Cards was involved, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Don't ask me names.
Love that guy.
And I mean, it was just an amazing movie shot, so low budget. And there it is right now up against La La Land, which is a, how many $1 million thing.
Sure.
So I think that's what's neat right now about movies is
Yeah.
it's so diverse and it's so interesting to see that, you can have the same impact with a,
Right.
$1 million movie as a $50 million movie.
Yeah. Have you seen La La Land?
I haven't.
I haven't either, and I'm done. So I'm glad because I don't want to give it away. I really want to see it a lot. So that director also did Whiplash, which was brilliant, I thought, and that wasn't a big budget film. So I'm glad to see that, he went from this indie world and went to the big screen, but still kept his sort of point of view.
Right.
A lot of times you get guys who, like Jean-Luc Bassard, who did Fifth Element, and he had a film called Angel A, and it was a little independent film, and then next thing you know, he's doing like Aliens, and it just things get ruined, So I love filmmakers like that, like him or Darren Aronofsky, who, granted, his worst film I think is Noah, which was his biggest budget,
Right.
but all of his other films before that, The Wrestler, Black Swan, I mean, brilliant, Requiem.
Yeah.
So all right, so what else? What other ones have you seen?
I saw Jackie.
Did you like it?
I thought Natalie Portman did a great job in it.
Was it Natalie Portman or was it Keira Knightley?
No, it was Natalie Portman.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Are you positive?
Now you're making me question myself.
Are you positive? Because I have a theory that
Yes.
they're the same person.
Oh, I'm like,
So
no,
my good friend Joe and Angus, if they're listening, we were in New York and we played a little game at the bar called Natalie or Knightley. And I would like to challenge you listeners out there to Google the connection of the likeness between Natalie Portman and Keira Knightley. So we're gonna play.
trying to do this in
we're
my
gonna
head.
play a little game right now. I'm gonna show
Okay.
you a picture, and
All
you
right,
got
I
to
have to
make the
guess.
call. All right. So,
All right.
Meanwhile, while I look it up, go ahead and talk a little bit about Jackie.
So, like, I think she did an amazing job. I think it was an interesting story, but it was really long to watch. It was just like, okay, I get it. They could have taken 20 minutes out of that movie and been fine.
yeah.
I just think it went on and on and on and on and on. And I mean,
Well, but it's history, so you're like you kind of know the ending, right?
well, not only that, but it didn't really prove a point beyond the first 10 or 15 minutes. So I was like, what is all this extra?
But I heard the
word
wardrobes were really great.
beautiful.
Because I'm a big I love fashion. I'm a big fashion fan.
Well, I can tell.
So, well, I mean, I didn't say I was fashionable. I didn't say I was fashionable. I
No.
do love fashion.
They did like I said, the details of the movie were fabulous. The
Yeah.
furniture, the fashions, recreating the White House, probably not a cheap task,
Right.
or an easy task to do. I mean, they did that. It was lovely. The funeral scenes
Right.
and them walking down Pennsylvania Avenue. I lived in D.C. for a long time, and so they got it right. It was all great, but. And I'm not one of those people that likes to look at my watch in a movie, but I was. It's like, how much longer is this going to go? And I mean, you hate that.
Yes.
That's not what should happen.
All right, we're going to play this game. Are you
Oh,
ready?
boy. All right, I'm on the spot.
All right. This is a game of Natalie or Knightley.
Dun, dun, dun.
Okay. Here we go. First pick.
That's Knightley.
Correct. Excellent. All right, here we go.
I
Second.
feel such pressure. I didn't know there was going to be a quiz. Frank, you didn't warn me.
All right, second pick. This one I'm going to zoom in a little.
Uh-oh.
And I'm going to do nose up. Nose up.
Oh, boy. That's Portman.
Really? You're right. Good call. Man, you got a good eye. I'll tell you, there's some pictures out there when you see side by sides. Actually, I don't know if you know, but in Star Wars, Knightley played Portman's body double.
Oh.
So she was the body double of the princess so that the princess could go in. Do you guys remember this? Yes? Google this. It's a thing.
How?
They were like, oh, this girl looks just like Natalie Portman. She's going to play Natalie Portman as Queen Amidala. So I'm telling you, it's out there. Look for it. But I have this film that I want to make. This might
Okay.
show the dark side of me. I want to make a film with Natalie and Knightley where they fall in love, but then they have existential crises because they think they're falling in love with themselves.
That's kind of deep.
Right? And so, we can, there's probably going to be some makeout scenes, and it's going to get weird because they think they're making out with themselves, and they kind of like it, but it's kind of weirded out. There's a whole thing happening there. So if you
There's
want
something there. I
if
think
you want to see this film made, if you're listening, start spreading the word, start talking about it. Let's create a meme. Let's get it out to the internet. My thought is that if you put anything out to the internet, it'll come true, right? I mean, look at the president.
Oh, God.
So
Really?
whatever.
We had to go there. You had to go there.
Every now and again, I drop a little something, but I'm just gonna say, I think those of you that want to see this film, if you want to see Natalie and Knightley together, but have them an existential dilemma on whether or not they're falling in love with themselves, this is a film that I'll be willing to direct.
All right. I would buy tickets to see that.
I think a lot of people would.
Yeah.
Yeah, seems like a great idea.
There's no doubt.
All right, so Oscar. So, are you a big Oscar fan? Are you watching the Oscars?
I do watch the Oscars. I watch them every year.
Oscar party?
Film Dayton does a big Oscar party.
Okay.
We're doing an Oscar watch party at one of our local theaters, the Plaza Theater. If you happen to be up in Miamisburg, want to come out and see us Sunday.
Nice.
It's free to get in, and then we do a couple things that make it more fun. I think.
Okay.
We do Oscar bingo. So we
Fun.
actually have an Oscar bingo card. So you're following along. And you're like, yes, the
Awesome.
teleprompter messed
Yeah,
up.
yeah,
We
yeah.
got it.
Sure.
Yes, they just told the kids to go to bed.
Got it.
All those usual things that you do.
Yeah.
And then we do the predictions as
Okay.
well. And then we'll have a little auction. So it helps raise some money for Film Dayton.
That's fun.
But it's just very casual, and it doesn't cost anything to get in.
Cool.
I've been to some of those parties that are really big, dress
Yeah,
up,
yeah,
and I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah.
it's a Sunday night. Sorry,
Sure.
I'm not dressing up. I'm not, and it's hard because invariably the show's going to go past 11 o'clock.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that's like a magic hour for people that have real jobs.
Yep.
You know,
And
so
kids.
yeah,
Yeah.
or kids, either way. So I like to watch it because there's always something about it. But I have to admit, in the last year or two, with a lot of the award shows, sometimes it's just as easy to watch the YouTube clips later
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
not feel like you're wasting all that time.
Exactly. Yeah. So, all
But
right, that's cool.
I do feel like it's, if you're involved in the film world, you have to watch it. It's our recital.
There seems
It
to
is.
be some really good films this year.
There are a lot of good films. There are a lot of diverse films. I think there's going to be a lot of unknowns that will win things, we all like to see Meryl Streep win an award, but we've seen it. Sometimes the speeches and
Meryl
the
Streep's
excitement.
okay.
But
She's all right.
She's done it. She's
Yeah.
she's a great actress, no doubt.
Yeah, she's no Keanu Reeves.
Let's let somebody else have a chance. But sometimes those speeches are fun, and
Yeah.
obviously you're gonna
That
have
speech last year, or was it whatever the awards was for Meryl Streep, the girl who gave it, that was a little over the top.
Well, you're going to get some of that. You are, and I think you're going to get some political speeches. I'm sure we'll have a few of those this year. But the ones that are really the heartfelt, like where the whole "you like me, you really like me," it's kind of nice to see
fun.
some of these stars be real.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, we see them scripted most of the time.
Maybe Knightley will present Natalie with an award, and she'll be like, did I just give myself an award? And then somebody in the audience is going to be like, I've got a film idea. And they're not going to know that they saw it on the internet somewhere because there was a meme and they're like, I've got an idea. Anyways,
It could happen.
you got to keep throwing it out there. All right. So what are you working on? That's another big question we have. What are you guys doing? Anything? You got any inside information? Any films coming to Dayton? What are you working on?
I've been scouting for the last month and a half on a movie that's going to come to the area, the Robert Redford movie.
Wow.
The Old Man and the Gun.
Nice.
It's definitely happening, whether it happens in Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky, or Dayton. We don't know. And that's part of my job is to show them locations that will make them want to come to Dayton.
Yeah.
So I've been doing a lot of that. And that's something I don't know if many people know what that scouting process is like.
Yeah.
And it's, okay, say they needed a bank for this movie. And, you go and you look at a bank and, you and I go into the bank every, once
Right.
a month, but you don't think about, how are they going to film this? Where's the boom going to be? Where are they going to set up? So finding a bank is a lot more challenging than you think.
Yeah, not only does it have to have the right aesthetic and look and feel, but it has to be big enough. It has to have parking. It has to, all that jazz.
It has to be willing to probably be a bank that's not in day-to-day use anymore.
Yeah.
And then you have to figure out what it feels like and where people will go. So, that's, doing that. I got a call this morning from there's a English company that's doing a documentary, and they are trying to get permission to film in a field. And we're trying to figure out who owns the field.
Wow.
So my job is literally, I'm on the
Property
phone,
rights.
trying to figure out who owns what. Who do we talk to? Does that need a permit? Does
Sure.
it not need a permit?
What kind of field are we talking about here? An
It's
airfield?
No, it's just it's woods. It's the middle of woods, and I've got
Interesting.
GPS coordinates.
Nice.
Is all I've got.
All right.
And so that's what I'm looking at. The other thing, we're constantly trying to train crew, make sure that people are ready to go. Between Cincinnati and Dayton, there've been a ton of movies in the last 2 years. Well, you have to have people ready to go because the last thing
support
we
'em.
want to happen is for a film to come here and go, oh, Ohio doesn't seem to have anybody with any skills.
Yeah.
So it's important, and we know that we've got a pretty good crew base in the area. But
Some of the best in the world.
well, people that know their stuff and that are good at it, but as they're being elevated in the business, do we have that next level ready to go?
Right, because it's one thing to do one film in Ohio. It's another thing to do 3 films in Ohio, 4 films. At some point you run out of people.
Yeah, and you have to have, in order for those people to rise, I go back to that Hannah Beekler who has done some stuff, was from right here, got some stuff. Director liked her, has taken her on. She went and did Fruitvale, and he's taken her on a bunch of different projects.
Yeah.
So she's leaving, and she's going wherever he goes because
Yeah.
money's good, it's happening. So who's next in line here?
Yeah.
Because the last thing that we want ever to happen in Ohio is for them to go, oh, they didn't understand. Oh, it's just Ohio.
Sure.
Because we've got amazing talent, but we have to have the next set of amazing talent. And who's going to train
Yeah.
them? Because if you're so busy working on a film, you want to be nice and mentor the next guy and
Right.
get them up there. But if they don't even understand walkie-talkie 101,
Right.
you got no patience for that.
Sure.
So, it's little things like that, just the set etiquette and what needs to be done and how you do it. I got a really interesting phone call yesterday. It was from a woman, and she said, my son is really interested in getting in the movies. Can you help me? And I said, well, how old's your son? Well, he's 17. I said, well, the first thing I can tell you is he needs to be on this phone call, not you.
Yeah.
Well, no, I just really, he really wants to, he doesn't know how to do it. And I said, so why isn't he calling?
Yeah.
I said, because nobody wants to listen to you. So you're doing him a disservice. You're enabling him. You need to be off this phone, and he needs to make the phone call.
Nice. I like it.
Well,
no nonsense.
Well, and then maybe comes back from accounting. I don't have time to mess with it.
Man.
But what's going to happen? You hire this guy as a PA, and you tell him, hey, go take the dry cleaning down here. And he goes, and he has to call mom and go, they want me to take the dry cleaning. What does that mean?
Yeah.
If he doesn't have the stones to ask for clarification, if he doesn't understand it, he ain't going to make it. I am real hardcore with it. It's like, I believe that in order to succeed in this business, you have to be willing to do almost anything.
Okay.
And you have to be willing to admit what you don't know.
Yes.
And then you have to be willing to follow through on the things you're asked to do.
Sure. And if you don't know, find out.
Yeah. And those are the things. It doesn't take, you don't have to be the smartest guy in the world.
Yeah.
You don't have to be the most creative person in the world. But you have to be determined and willing. And that will take you so far because, as we all know, there's not a path that's, A plus B does not equal C in the film world.
Right.
Sometimes it's timing. Sometimes it's the guy in front of you screwed up and you've got the opportunity.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just a matter of, you look like you'll be good enough.
Sure.
I like your look. I like your feel. Or, hey, you had a car. That works.
Yeah.
And I think, you're asking me, that goes back to my comedy stuff, too. I can tell you that I hired a comic from an open mic night because he was willing to help us take out the trash.
Nice.
And what that said to me was, he may not be the funniest guy in the world, but he gets the game.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, with film, too, is you have to get it.
That's good, man. I like that nugget you just gave us there. So being willing to do what it takes to show people you get the game. I like that. That's nice. That's a good takeaway.
But it makes everyone's job easier.
Yeah.
I may not know exactly how you want me to roll these chords, but the fact that I'll come over and go, can I help you? And we do
it's half the battle. Showing up's half the battle.
And we get there and we get it done, and then you know that you can ask me for the next thing you need help with.
Reliability is maybe one of the most sought after things in filmmaking, right? Like, are you going to show up?
And I'm telling you, that's what is helping Ohio get a lot of films. I'm hearing this from directors and producers. They're like, we love that Midwestern can-do attitude. I heard some guys, down in Atlanta, they're having a hard time crewing because people don't show up consistently. They get the job, they come, they show up for 8-10 days. Yeah, there's a big concert, and then nobody shows up.
They're lackadaisical down there. They're lazy down in the South.
They don't want to get it done. Whereas, this Midwest is, what do you need? How can I make it happen? Yeah. Is this good enough for you? That's what we have, and I think that's what's bringing films back too. Is people get that.
Well, that's exciting. What do you? Obviously, you're pumped up about what you do. You seem to be a vivacious person. Is there anything outside of the commission you're excited about? Or anything that any new realms you're trying to explore?
Well, I got to tell you, when I got the invitation to do the whole bourbon thing, I'm a bourbon girl.
Nice.
I don't know if you've been up to the Dayton area. We have a bar called the Century.
Have not been there.
Oh, we got to get you there. It's been named the top 10 bourbon bar in the country.
Really?
Numerous years. It's
wow. We'll have to check this out.
It's amazing. Joe Head, the owner and main bartender, about 5 years ago converted it from. It's been a bar that's been around forever, but he really just got into bourbon, and they have a Century Club. So if you drink 100 bourbons, you get your Century card,
nice.
Your name on the wall, and I'm now working on my second Century.
Wow.
So
nice.
Definitely my thing to do.
So what's your favorite bourbon?
I think for most everyday drinking, I'm kind of a Four Roses single barrel.
Okay, solid everyday drinker.
Yeah, that's my everyday drink.
Okay.
I have a bottle of Pogue that I'm holding on to right now, a little small brewery, down in Kentucky that I really liked, and now it's become so hard to get. You can't get it. So it used to be one of my favorites, and I can't remember anymore if it is, but I'm holding on to that bottle. So I definitely
So
like
you have
that.
A collection?
Yes,
okay.
I definitely do.
How big of a collection we talking?
I probably got 50 bottles.
Wow.
And it's definitely like people that know me, like I've already gotten a few texts, today. They're like, hey, why aren't you at the Century drinking? It's today. I'm like, I'm doing something else. But they know that's my spot. And nice. I have that thing, I'll take a picture of whatever I'm drinking and put it up on my, Facebook, my Instagram page so that I can keep track of the different ones that I'm trying. I have a recommendation for your listeners if they're bourbon drinkers and don't have deep pockets.
Okay.
No, I got God, I'm going to butcher it.
That's all right.
I'm trying to
think about it. I think one of my favorites.
Wild Dog by... It's like a $19 bottle.
Wild
That's really,
Bird Dog?
Bird Dog, thank you. bourbon.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
think
they make a lot of flavored bourbons.
just the regular one. It's a $19 bottle, and I found it in New Orleans one
Sure.
time. I went to the convenience store to try to get a bottle of bourbon because we were down there and didn't have a lot of selection. I'm like, I'll try it. It's not a bad cheap bourbon.
I like a good cheap bourbon.
Yeah,
I don't mind, Kentucky Tavern in a plastic bottle. I'm in.
All
Count me
right,
in.
there
Put
you
it on
go.
the rocks and we're good.
What's your favorite upscale?
My favorite bourbon is OYO.
Okay.
So
An
or
Ohio one?
OYO black, the one in the black bottle.
Okay.
Is I think the best bourbon on the planet.
Wow, that's heavy praise.
I mean, I love it. I think it's great, and I've had a lot of bourbon. I mean, I've had lots of different types of bourbon. I mean, usually I have a hard time finding one I haven't had, and the first time I ever had it, I was like, wow, it's just
Nice.
crisp and pure and good, and I get flack for that because it's not Kentucky. And I tell people, look, you're missing out because some of the best bourbons are not from
There's some
Kentucky.
good Indiana bourbons even.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I definitely, I think it's something cool. So you asked that. And then, I'm definitely into craft beer. I was running brew tours for a while, taking people on a little party bus from brewery to brewery. In
You've
the
got
Dayton
like a
area.
whole underworld.
Here's what I'm all about. And I think it came from my mother set this into my world is like, if you don't like something, don't bitch about it. Find something instructive to do about it. So when I first moved to Dayton, I was there as a comedy club consultant for 90 days to turn a club around. And as things turned around, I ended up buying that club and staying there. And I was like, a lot of people didn't have good things to say about Dayton. So I had to find them.
Yeah.
And then I have to turn other people onto them.
Yeah.
And so that's why the film thing works too. It's like
Sure.
there are cool things in any
There
town.
are some pockets in Dayton. People love that Dayton, the University of Dayton.
Yep.
They go crazy. A lot of people from Northern Kentucky go to UD. And a lot of Catholics.
Yes.
Is it a Catholic
It's
school?
Marianist.
They love that thing.
What it is for a lot of people
What is
too
going on with the University of Dayton?
It's one of those East Coast schools for people that can't get into the higher echelon of those, the Harvards and the Yales. So they do that. And the other thing about it is it's very self-contained and it's very cool and it's a university in an urban situation. So they have cool
but
stuff.
it's accessible.
It's accessible. They get it. They make it easy. It's the UD basketball fans. I mean, that's their thing. Basketball.
It's out of control.
Dayton, the whole town.
And they've done really good.
Yeah, they do well, and then we get the NCAA. The
There's
playing
like
games.
riots in the streets when you guys win.
Yeah, they are. They're hanging sheets down from the all the houses and cheering on. I mean, it's a big deal. Dayton is the coolest little town that has almost everything. And the neat thing about it is, if it doesn't have it, we're close enough to Cincinnati or Columbus or Indy to get it.
Yeah.
So I think that's what's cool about it, and I think maybe that's why it makes me the right person for the film commission job because I do think it's a great city.
Yeah, you got to be a fan.
It's not my hometown. I mean,
Sure.
I grew up in D.C. and Chicago, and I lived all over. But I can really appreciate the coolness that it is, and you can be anywhere in 20 minutes.
All right. Well, I've got my next question. It's
right.
going to get serious.
Okay.
Some people listening, they want to know, are there spaceships in Wright Pat? Because here's the thing. Those of us who watch Stranger Things, we know that there's these towns, usually they're small, and usually they have some hidden asylum or secret or something. And we know, I've seen things in the sky that I can't explain. You know what I mean? There's some weird things that happen. And me and Alex one night actually saw some crazy thing in the sky it was too big to be a drone. It was moving in patterns that wasn't a helicopter or a plane. We don't know what it was, but it was questionable. And but I think that there is definitely some things going on up at Wright Pat that we don't know about. What do you think?
I know there's some things going on that we don't know about.
Yeah.
I've heard the rumors that you've
And
heard.
real
I've seen
quick,
it.
people that aren't familiar, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base is in Dayton, Ohio. It is a top tier secret. They have super secret sections, the whole nine. There's a big museum there, but there's a lot of it that is very active, and it's centrally located in the center of our country, and it's a big deal. I mean, people come through there, top generals, top presidents, the whole deal, and there's places at Wright Pat that only a few people can access.
There are definitely some secret silos and some things going on, and I wish I could tell you, but I don't have that kind of clearance.
Yeah.
And I haven't had that much bourbon on top of that. So, but there are some interesting things happening. You talk about drones. That's another thing. Dayton is huge.
Yeah.
We've got Sinclair Community College actually has a drone school, and people are coming in. And, I think that's another thing in filmmaking that is becoming bigger and bigger and bigger.
It's crazy. The drone craze is out of control.
Yep.
There are too many drones.
There are.
Yeah. They all have a mind of their own now.
But it certainly is giving you a different viewpoint, and it's making it much more accessible for
Yeah.
more people
Oh,
to
yeah,
be able
it's
to have
great.
those
Yeah.
special effects or those zoom ins and things in a much more cost-effective way to do that. So I think drones are a big advantage in the movie business.
I feel like you know more than you're telling us about, right, Pat? I feel like you're on the inside and you know something that we don't know, and you're using that to pitch people. Hey, you can get access. I can connect you with Right Pat. If you're going to do military, if you want to do an alien film, we've got real aliens. I can connect you.
A girl always has to have her secrets. There's always got to be something. I think you know things you're not telling us.
I don't know.
either.
Look.
I think that Portman Kearley thing is more than just a movie idea.
I don't know. It might be. It might be more than just a movie idea. But and who knows? Maybe there's some cloning going on at Right Pat. Maybe that's why we have Natalie and Knightley.
Ooh, look at you bringing
You know
that
what I mean?
back around.
I don't know. But what I know is there are things that this world can't explain, okay? And that's the thing that makes life exciting.
It is.
So, but it's been a lot of fun to chat about it.
I was nervous because I really thought, I don't know if I know the filmmaker part of it. I knew I had the bourbon part down, but you've made it very easy.
Well, we just chit-chat here every now and again. It's been fun. I was actually invited to a podcast yesterday, the Creative City podcast, which is here in Cincinnati.
Okay.
And so that was a lot of fun. Tamia had me on the show, and I think I may have I just kind of just started talking. She'd asked the question, and then I just kept talking. I hijacked the show. So
it happens, but you're interesting, and
it'll be
keep
posted soon. Yeah, we talked about all sorts of crazy stuff. She's a stylist. I told her I would switch,
fashion thing.
Yeah, I told her I would switch places with her any day. I love it.
What's your favorite fashion period?
Well, I mean, I don't like to go into period.
Okay.
I only like modern.
Okay.
I only like current street fashion. Really, I love it when somebody puts together a look, walks out the door, and you can just see on their face that they feel like they're on top of the world. And it could be crazy. It doesn't have to be quote good. Like somebody could have the craziest look ever. They could have, I've seen some homeless people with some of the sweetest concoctions and setups, with gloves and different things that is their way of expressing themselves. That's just cool,
So you like the confidence that somebody
yeah,
that can
man,
wear
there's
it
just
with
something
style.
cool. Yeah, there was one lady in downtown who, she's an older lady, and she always wears this big fur coat, and she's middle of just a normal work day, and she's I don't know where she's going. I don't know who this lady is, but she's just crushing it, man. She's on the runway, just killing it with this odd fur coat, weird hats and stuff. But I love it. I think it's cool.
Okay.
So anyway, so where can people find the Dayton Film Commission? Where can they find you? How do they connect? All that jazz.
Any of your social media outlets, filmdayton.com. You can find us on Twitter. You can find us on Instagram. You're going to find us out there. We're out there.
Okay.
They want to reach me, Lisa at filmdayton.com. I can't make it any easier than that.
Excellent.
And that's the thing, once again, we're Dayton, we try harder. We're that smaller city. We get it. We're going to go out of our way to make things easy for you.
That's awesome.
And I think a lot of people also, when I throw this out there, think that we're competitive with Cincinnati. We're not at all. We're a compliment to them.
Sure.
Half of our crew base is coming down here to work on films. Some of your films are coming up to film something in Dayton that they can't find in Cincinnati for a day or two. I really feel like we work hand in hand. So
yeah,
I just want people to know that it's not about competition. It's about let's make this whole region known for doing great things.
And that's great. And I think that's exactly what this podcast is trying to do. We connect with people across the country, across the globe. And that's the one thing me and Alex have been trying to create is this sense of camaraderie. Mm-hmm. And so we created the Filmmakers Drinking Bourbon Slack channel. And if you go to ftbpodcast.com, you can join our Slack group. And it's just a cool place where you can ask questions to other filmmakers, get tips, tricks, ideas, feedback. And I think that's the most important thing is that if we stick together, we share resources, and we encourage each other, then everybody can win.
Amen. I mean, it is. It's all about connectivity.
That's good.
You were right.
So, all right. Well, we'll catch up next time. I'm excited to hear more comedian stories. We'll follow up maybe on some alien developments at Right Pat. I'll let you know whether or not the film has gone into production with Nat and Knightley.
And we'll get you up to the Century to drink some more bourbon.
Yes. This has been a great podcast. So thanks so much for coming on the show, and we'll see you next time.
Excellent.
Cheers.
Cheers.
This podcast was recorded live at Sound Images Studio. Find out more at soundimages.com.